What is going on, you beautiful people? I hope you are having a wonderful day. Today we are going to talk about the pros and cons of Castle Rock, Colorado. Hey, but real quick, if this is your first time to the channel and you are interested in learning a little bit more about Denver or some of the surrounding areas like Castle Rock, then make sure and hit the subscribe button, tap the bell icon for notifications. This way, whenever I come out with a video, you are the first to know and learn about the Denver area, market, anything like that, or Castle Rock specifically, and don't miss out. If you don't already know, my name is Michael and I get people like you reaching out all the time looking to make a move to Denver. So if that's something that you're doing, whether it's next week, next month, maybe even next year, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm more than happy to help make whatever transition you are planning on doing as smoothly as possible. My contact information is below. You can shoot me a text, give me an email, give me a phone call, whatever is best for you. I'm more than happy to help in whatever way I can. So with that being said, let's get right into the video. So for those that you don't know, Castle Rock is a town just south of Denver, maybe like a 25-minute drive or so. Nice little town. It's a very mountainy type of town, but very busy. It's got a population of about 75,000, which is increased about 50% since 2010. So it definitely has gained popularity over the last decade or so. But overall, it's a really nice area, and let's get right into the pros. All right, the first one is probably the most obvious when you get into Castle Rock, but it's very beautiful. You have the mountains, and you kind of have it on both sides because you have all the trees and stuff on the east side and the mountains on the west side. So when you're going through it, it's almost like you're going through like a miniature mountain town. At least that's kind of how it feels. But it's got, it's got a large population, so there's lots of shopping, restaurants, all that stuff. So, it's a beautiful little town, and it just kind of sits perfectly in this little valley type thing. And it's just very appealing to the eyes as you're kind of going through. It almost feels like you're in the mountains without actually being in the mountains, which definitely has some perks to it. But for the most part, you just feel like you're kind of taking a drive through the mountains for a little bit if you kind of get off the main road. So that actually leads me to my next point. One of the benefits of Castle Rock, one of the pros, is that you're really close to the mountains. So if you are somebody that likes to go to the mountains, you have pretty easy access. It's not very far, and you kind of have a little shortcut compared to the people all up in Denver that kind of all try and get on the same road. So I'd say that's one of the big benefits of living in Castle Rock. You also have a lot of hiking and trails nearby. So if you're trying to take your dog out, or you just want to go get a little exercise in, it's not far, and you don't have to go very far to get to those things. You can make that a part of your probably daily life if you want to. There's plenty of trails out there, and it's just a really nice area to kind of do those kinds of things. So if that's something that you're really excited about to do when you get to Colorado, maybe look at Castle Rock because that's something that they can offer you. The next thing I'll mention is the proximity to Denver. You're not too far from Denver, but you're also not too close. So, if you're trying to commute to Denver all the time, if you're going all the way to downtown, that might be a little bit far. If you're on the beginning parts of Denver, that might be just right. The other thing is you're also not too far from Colorado Springs, so you're kind of situated nicely in between the two, where if you're trying to go to either, it's not a very far drive for either. So if you have things going on in both areas, Castle Rock's a really great middle ground, and it's probably one of the only options to kind of live in between if you're trying to live somewhere in between. There's a couple places up north, but for the most part, you're probably gonna wanna base camp in Castle Rock just because you got a good middle ground between the two of them, and you have plenty of things in Castle Rock to kind of meet your needs in the meantime. Building off that last one, another thing to consider that's I'd say a pro is because you're so far away from the major city, you're not dealing with as much pollution with whether like from vehicles or factories, stuff like that, and then also like noise pollution. So it's not going to be as busy. You're not going to have as many cars driving through. So overall, it's just going to be a little bit quieter, a little bit less congested, a little bit more cleaner than you would get in downtown Denver or somewhere around there. And the next thing, kind of like I mentioned before, but you have pretty much everything you need in Castle Rock. You have healthcare facilities, you have restaurants, eateries, you name it, shopping, all sorts of things. You have your groceries, Walmarts, Targets, all that stuff. You have all that stuff in Castle Rock. so you don't necessarily need to go to Denver for anything unless you're working from Denver. You can pretty much stay in Castle Rock full time unless you're traveling for work, commuting, or you're going to an event that's going on. Which is another nice thing is, you're not too far from those events if you need to go to something or if you want to go to something. But for the most part, everything that you need is right there in Castle Rock. The next thing, on top of it having, restaurants and stuff, like you have all your chain restaurants, and then you also have very local eateries. So you have your pizza places, taco places, Thai places, all that little mom and pop stuff, you have that. So if you're looking for something a little bit more authentic, a little bit more hole in the wall, you have plenty of those. And along with that, you have your craft breweries, plenty of those. So if you're looking for craft beer or just a place to hang out, plenty of those around as well. So you have plenty of those things that people often enjoy in Colorado in Castle Rock. So you don't necessarily need to go out and find your own. Outside of Castle Rock, you have them right there. If you're looking for specifics, I'd recommend checking out like historic downtown. Plenty of places along there that you can go check out. Plenty of recommendations if you are there and you want to go try something, hit me up. I have plenty of recommendations for you. The last thing I will touch on for Castle Rock is the outlet malls. It's one of the very popular things people go to Castle Rock for. It's probably one of the things that it's most known for. But a lot of people come up from Colorado Springs or down from Denver to go to the shopping malls down there. Very popular shopping mall. You have all your shopping that you could possibly want. And I mean, you could spend a whole day there just kind of walking up and down all the little malls. Usually not that packed. It's usually pretty steady traffic, but great place to go check out if you have a day to kill. It's also a great day to go if you are looking for something to do and the weather's not super great. Great place to go because you can just kind of go pop in and out of the shops and kind of spend a whole day there. So let's get into the cons because not everywhere is perfect. There's definitely some things to think about and consider. And the first thing I will say is the cost of living. Compared to some of the other Denver suburbs, Castle Rock can be a little pricey. A median home price, single family, is roughly $695,000. Now that's not terrible for Denver, but compared to some other places, you could definitely live a little bit cheaper if you are trying to save a little bit of money. Now, if you really like Castle Rock and you really want to go there and you're looking for something a little bit cheaper, if you look kind of on like the eastern side of Castle Rock, you could find some homes. Median home price over there is probably around $600,000. So, you're going down almost 20% in price, and still not that far. You might have a little bit further drive into town because you kind of have to go up and over a little bit, but it's not that far. It might take about 10 minutes. Now, if you're commuting to Denver from Castle Rock, I'd say the outskirts might add a little bit extra time that you might be a little hesitant to, agree to. But just one of the things, cost of living there is not amazing, but it's also not terrible either. The next thing I'll talk about, and I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, is just your proximity to Denver. So if you are going to be in Denver a lot, you're going to be traveling to and from, up and down I-25. Castle Rock might be a little bit far for you. It's going to be quite a bit of a drive, and especially if you're kind of going during work hours, your regular work hours where kind of everybody's going to work, you're going to hit a lot of traffic going to and from, just because a lot of people are coming up from the Springs, up from Castle Rock, and then as you get into Denver, everyone's kind of, getting to work. So if you're going to downtown Denver, I probably would say you're going to have a bit of a rough time. So if you don't mind traffic, maybe it's not a big deal, but you might have a 45 to 60 minute commute in the morning. And some people just aren't too excited to sign up for something like that. And same thing coming home. If you're going home the same time everybody else is, probably the same thing. So you might have an hour and a half, 2 hours a day of commuting, just if you're working up in Denver, or if you're going up there often. If you have things going on up there, it's just going to be a lot of driving. Last thing I'll talk about is the proximity to the airport. Now, most places in Denver are relatively close to the airport. Depending on where you're from, you might be used to living really close to the airport. But if you're going to be flying for work or you're going to and from quite often, you're going to have quite a drive from Castle Rock. It's probably going to take you about 45 to an hour every single time, probably even a little bit more depending on when you're going. If you take E470, which is the toll road, you'll probably save 20 minutes. But for the most part, you're going to be spending a little bit extra time getting to the airport. So if traveling is something that you do often, Castle Rock might not be close enough for you that you might feel comfortable with the drive in between. Oh, one last thing, I almost forgot this one, but Castle Rock's expanding quite rapidly. The population increased about 50% just from 2010 to 2020. And if you kind of go through there, you can see they're continuing to expand it. So it's probably not going to slow down anytime soon. They're kind of moving a little bit outwards, but it's going to continue to grow. So if you're not wanting something to, get super congested and really busy, then maybe Castle Rock might not be for you. But for the most part, almost all the suburbs in Colorado are doing that. It's not something that's new. I just think Castle Rock's doing a little bit faster than some of the other areas. So just something to consider. So with all that being said, there are definitely some positives and negatives to Castle Rock, and depending on your individual needs, maybe it's not something that is for you, or maybe, hey, it ticks off all these boxes, sounds like a great place, really is, then, maybe check it out when you come here. Yeah, I hope you found this quick video helpful, and maybe you learned a few things that you didn't necessarily know about Castle Rock, or a few things that you didn't necessarily consider. But don't forget, if you are planning on moving out to Colorado, surrounding suburbs, or Castle Rock specifically, feel free to reach out. My contact information is below. I'd love to help in whatever way I can to make whatever transition you're making as smooth as possible. Have a good one.